Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa and the name of this channel is called Gnostic Knowledge, and what I am doing on this channel is sharing the knowledge of gematria. Gematria is the encoding of numbers within our letters and words. Every word we speak has a numerical value because our letters are in fact numbers. And the more that you delve into what gematria is, the more clearly you will see this alphanumeric code in play, and it has been in play for thousands of years, and it is still in play today. And how I am sharing this knowledge of gematria is via two books written by Zachary K. Hubbard. The first book is entitled Letters and Numbers. His second book is entitled Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus. And Zachary K. Hubbard is the person that wrote both of the books, and I will tell you at the end of this reading how to get both of his books. In the meantime, I am in chapter 18. Chapter 18 is entitled George Floyd, NASCAR, and the Racial Aspect of Coronavirus. I am on page 305, page 305. And in my last video that I listened to the very end of it, I misread a sentence. I'm going to start over at that sentence, not too far from where I ended my reading, but I want to make sure that I read this book as correct as possible. So, without further ado, I'm on page 305, and what I am reading about is in regards to Drew Brees making an apology regarding the Black Lives Matter movements. Something that he said, okay? In light of the date of apology, keep in mind racism equates to 63 and 99, and New Orleans Saints sum to 63 with Pythagorean, similar to June 3rd or 6-3. For another 99 on May 31st on May 31st and June 1st of 2020. Curfews were being installed across the United States because of the protesting, looting, and rioting that was taking place, and those dates fell on the 99-year anniversary of the Tulsa race riots that lasted from May 31st through June 1st, 1921. What made this ritual impressive is that Tulsa is in Oklahoma, a state having gematria of 76 and 31 in the exact same ciphers as curfew. And May 31st, 2020, when the curfews were beginning nationwide, was a date with 76 numerology, plus being the 31st day of the month. Furthermore, Tulsa, Oklahoma alone equates to 76, and even further, Tulsa race riots equates to 181, the same as Memorial Day, which again is the 42nd prime number, and the date George Floyd was reportedly killed. And if you recall the recent killing of Terrence Crutcher by police, September 16th, 2016 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you learned the story of the Crutcher twins, equating to 181, the 42nd prime number. At the same time, the surname Crutcher alone sums to 42 with Pythagorean, the number stamped on black history and equating with twin. Thus, there can be no doubt the Crutcher twins story, part of the same contrived mainstream news cycle that gave us the killing of George Floyd in the Twin Cities in the time of Gemini the twins on Memorial Day, was part of the ongoing script leading up to the moment where we now are. This is proven further with the following facts. September 16th, the date of the Crutcher killing, is the 259th day of the year, corresponding with the gematria of Black Lives Matter, okay, as well as Roman Catholicism, the latter being who is behind this purposeful divide and conquer agenda. At the same time, September 16th leaves 106 days left in the year, a number that matters for many reasons, including the gematria of prophecy, equating to 106 with simple English, once again reminding us of Acts 7:6. For another connection to 106, Greenwood sums to 106, and that is the neighborhood that was attacked during the Tulsa race riots of 1921 that began May 31st, 1921, a date with 76 numerology. Okay? Then beyond that, I Can't Breathe, Black Lives Matter, and Black itself each sum to 106 with the base ciphers. Beyond that, NASCAR sums to 56 and 106, the same as Black Lives Matter. And on June 10th, 2020, or 10-6 like 106, a date with 56 numerology as well, NASCAR debuted the number 43 car, the Black Lives Matter car, while also announcing that the Confederate flag was no longer allowed at the races. Something we'll touch on more ahead when we discuss the significance of Confederate and George Perry Floyd, both equating to 201. For now, don't forget that both George Floyd and Civil War equate to 43. What is the 14th prime number? Taking us back to 2014, the year Eric Garner and Michael Brown, the latter being another name equating to 201, were both killed in incidents related to race and authority. And of course, slave equates to 14 with Pythagorean. On the subject of 106, contrived prophecy, and the Jesuits pulling the strings, I should mention the July 17th, 2020 death of C.T. Vivian at age 95, the civil rights leader who served with Martin Luther King Jr., the man who was assassinated on the 95th day of 1968, and a man easily confused with Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Thesis against the Catholic Church, leading to the Protestant Reformation and causing the creation of the Jesuit order. And it is interesting to note that Vivian was just 43 years old on the date of April 4th, 1968, the date of King's End. God, this stuff is just freaking blow my mind. As for Vivian's connection to the number 106, he was born Cordy Tyndale Vivian, equating to 106, the same as Black Lives Matter and Black. And for another 106, it was around this same time, okay? Joe Biden on July 20th, 2020, what is the 201st day of the year in most years, announced he would be naming one of 4 black women for his vice president running mate, a date that was 106 days prior to the November 3rd election. Okay, it's 106 days before the election that's coming up. Boy. And since Vivian died on July 17th, or 17/7, corresponding with the Jesuit order, it is important to note that he is remembered for being one of the freedom riders in the U.S. Civil Rights Movement, a movement that began on May 4th, emphasis on 5-4, like 54, the Jesuit order number, and in the year 1961, the 100-year anniversary of the freaking civil rights. Oh, these mofos ain't no damn good. They ain't no good. Oh my God, do these people... That's such a freaking joke. Oh, I tell you, sometimes I just want to just go outside and just scream to the top of my voice. You know, it's just... this stuff is crazy. For his efforts, this is still talking about C.T. Vivian, okay? For his efforts, he was offed on the same date Catherine the Great's husband was in history, and what happened to be a date with numerology of 28, 44, and 64, as well as being the 17th of the month, where the gematria of Kiel equates to 17, 28, 44, and 64. Goodness. At the same time, it is said that Vivian began his civil rights campaign in 1947, 17 years before 1964. Furthermore, civil rights equates to 64, and he died in Atlanta, Georgia, the current home of the Boule, on the 64th day of the Boule's age, having originally been established May 15, 1904, meaning they turned 116 years old. Not by chance, C.T. Vivian sums to both 116 and 100, the same as African American. For another, Barack Hussein Obama equates to 64 and 116, and of course Obama was elected as number 44 years after the Civil Rights Act, while running on hope, equating to 44 and 64 as well. Better yet, Obama nominated C.T. Vivian for the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013, and Vivian died 13 days before his 96th birthday, July 30th, 2020. I doubt it is an accident, because he received the medal November 20th, 2013, a date with 44 and 64 numerology, and the day leaving 41 days left in the year, the 13th prime number. Then on the back of C.T. Vivian's death, on the very same day, July 17th, the one with the kill numerology as well as civil rights numerology, it was reported that civil rights leader and U.S. Congressional Rep. John Lewis of Georgia, the same state the Boule is now headquartered in, a state equating to 44, had died at age 80. As we know, Boule summed to 80, and Martin Luther King Jr. from Georgia, and a member of the Boule, died 80 days after his birthday on April 4th, or 4/4. Adding insult to injury, Lewis died 147 days after his February 21st, 2020 birthday, and both conspiracy and Freemason equate to 147. At the same time, the White House has 147 windows on it, and both U.S. President and President of the United States equate to 147. And July 17th, the day of John Lewis's death, was 33 days after Trump's 74th birthday on June 14th. And for one more 33, John Lewis had become a congressional representative in 1987, 33 years earlier. Wow. Just ahead, we'll get to how these numbers come together in another important pattern with the killing of Rayshard Brooks on June 12, 2020 in Atlanta, the date that was the 147th day of Atlanta Mayor Bottom's age. Mayor Bottoms. It was the 147th day of Atlanta Mayor Bottom's age, having been born January 18, 1970. This stat is very important because police sums to 147 with Jewish gematria and 612 with reverse Sumerian, the latter being similar to the date of the shooting, June 12th, or 6/12, okay? As well as the Minneapolis area code 612, and also having happened in the city known as ATL, equating to 33, on the 33rd parallel north, and where police sums to 33 with Pythagorean. Then right on script, on June 14th, Trump's 74th birthday, Mayor Bottoms from the 33rd parallel called on police reform, echoing the I can't breathe marchers, but then at the same time, days later, made it mandatory for her people in her city to wear masks outside a city known for heat and humidity. That order from Bottoms came on July 8th, or 7/8, reminding us that Jesuit order sums to 78, and so does Wuhan coronavirus. Plus, George Floyd was born October 14th, the day leaving 78 days left in the year, a number also corresponding with the gematria of order out of chaos, exactly what was taking place with the puppet politicians doing their part. It's also important to note that her order came 2 days after she tested positive for coronavirus on July 6, 2020, a date reminding us of Acts 7:6, and a date that can be written 6/7 like 67, corresponding with the gematria of Mayor Bottoms as well as Wuhan. And please don't overlook that her birthday can be written 18/1 like 181, or that Houston, Texas, Floyd's hometown, equates to 181. And to think they're all new storylines for Black history, also equating to 181. Black history equates to 181. You mother effers. For another 106 parallel, we have discussed the death of Naya Rivera in light of the riddles connecting to Maeve Kennedy and Eminem, the latter being a Detroit rapper, the same as Big Sean, who used to be in a relationship with Naya Rivera. Okay, let me reread that. For another 106 parallel, we have discussed the death of Naya Rivera in light of the riddles connecting Maeve Kennedy and Eminem, the latter being a Detroit rapper, Eminem, the same as Big Sean, Big Sean used to be in a relationship with Naya Rivera. I bring these points up because Naya Rivera died on Big Sean's 106th day of his age, a man born March 25th, 1988. When you consider that she drowned, and drowned equates to 106, the same as the phrase "I can't breathe," you see how the ritual comes together, especially since on the day of the news of her disappearance, Eminem put out the new song criticizing those who weren't wearing masks in the time of coronavirus. And wearing a mask makes it harder to breathe, especially in the summer. To further remind of the parallels between the rituals over the years, both the names Naya Marie Rivera and Rodney Glenn King equate to 79, the 22nd prime, and both people drowned. Naya at age 33, Rodney at age 47. Furthermore, Naya, Rodney, and water each equate to 22 and 67, showing in part why they were chosen for these water rituals, and where the news of 33-year-old Naya's disappearance was July 9th, or 7/9, Rodney King, the man beaten on March 3rd, or 3/3, had his death announced on June 17, 2012, a date that 3 years later, June 17, 2015, would become the date of the Charleston church shooting, blamed on Dylan Stormroof, and where in the televised aftermath, a big red fire truck pulled up and parked in front of the church with the number 106 on it, and I pointed out that day the ongoing pattern with 106 and contrived prophecy, and that there could be no doubt it was a tribute to the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing that happened September 15, 1963, a date with 106 numerology. Thus, what seems arbitrary and separate is not, but instead is holistic, which is what the Jesuits promote to market their educational offerings, holistic learning. Little do most of their students know, however, how this holistic worldview is being utilized by some of their teachers in a very demented way. For for one more point on Naya Rivera's drowning, which will help us understand how history repeats itself and also transitions us into the topic at hand, George Floyd. It was compared to the drowning of Natalie Wood on November 29th, 1981. A little more than 38 years earlier, the number connected to death. To add to the list, drowned equates to 38 with Pythagorean, and Natalie Wood was born July 20th in the year 1938. Man. And as we covered earlier, Naya Rivera's death connected very heavily with the code of the Jesuit order, being presumed dead on July 9th, the 191st day of 2020, and a date with 56 numerology, as well as being 187 days before her 34th birthday, January 12th, 2021, because Society of Jesus equates to 56. 79, 187, and 191. And with regards to 191, from Rivera's birthday, January 12th, to Wood's birthday, July 20th, is a span of 191 days in 2020. At the same time, the Jesuit order sums to 177 and 201, and from Natalie Wood's birthday, on July 20th to what would be Rivera's next birthday is 177 days. Plus, as we know, July 20th, the anniversary of the moon landing, is the 201st day of the year. Let us not forget that July 20th is in the time of Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, and Cancer is a water symbol, adding to the relevance of Naya Rivera drowning July 8th, 2020 in the time of Cancer, and also a Cancer like Natalie Wood drowning. Furthermore, the father of Naya Rivera's child, Ryan Dorsey, celebrated his birthday on July 19th, 2020, the 201st day of the leap year, and further connecting the ritual to the Jesuits, his name, Ryan Dorsey, equates to 144 and 54 in the same ciphers as Jesuit order, similar to how Naya Rivera played the part of Santana Lopez in Glee, equating to 144 as well. Also, let us not forget that what we learned earlier about the parallels between the Glee curse and the Kennedy curse and the deaths of Maeve Kennedy and Naya Rivera, where Kennedy curse equates to 144 and 54 as well. With regards to 177 and 201, and further connecting the dots between George Floyd in 2020 and Eric Garner and Michael Brown in 2014 was the story released by the mainstream media in the wake of George Floyd's killing about the assault of Lamar Ferguson in 2014 by Minneapolis police officer Tual Tao. And I'm going to spell that Touthao, okay? Keep in mind, Ferguson, Missouri is where Michael Brown was reportedly killed in 2014. As for this more recent story, it emerged in the international news almost as fast as the George Floyd killing video went viral. My goodness. Okay, reread that. As for this more recent story, okay, it emerged in the international news almost as fast as the George Floyd killing video went viral. If you forgot who Touthao was, Touthao, if you forgot who that was, he was the Asian officer standing between the person filming the George Floyd scene and the officers on top of George Floyd. In regards to the Lamar Ferguson story, where he retells his tale from 2014, the Daily Mail had this is what they wrote, punched and kicked him until his teeth broke. Emphasized in headlines. That's the sentence they had in quotation marks, okay? Punched and kicked him until his teeth broke. Emphasized in headlines, equating to 177 and 201. The phrase was in regards to what Officer Tao allegedly did to Lamar Ferguson, a name also equating to 201 back in 2014. These lying bastards. I mean, what the... what in the hell? The reason we can be certain the encoding of these numbers is no accident is because, once again, in 2014, Eric Garner was killed on July 17th, or 17/7, and Michael Brown equates to 201, and those two events sparked the movement that is Black Lives Matter, equating to 56, the same as Society of Jesus. And once again, it is coming to power 56 years after the Civil Rights Act in 2020. And for the record, as most people know, the 1964 Act was nothing, absolutely nothing but symbolism, unlike the war on drugs, which is part of the 19-year cycles that has devastated black communities by design. Mother effers. The same is also true of Black Lives Matter, a movement that has black people targeting their own communities, only helping further the same stereotypes that the mainstream media has assigned to black people for all of their lives. Absolutely. That is their criminal, violent, immoral, etc., all of which are false. Absolutely. To build on our list of 201 connections, the mother of George Floyd's child, Gianna, was reported to be Roxy Washington. Okay? So let me say that again because I made that sound like Gianna was his lady. Okay. To build on the list, on our list of 201 connections, the mother of George Floyd's child, Gianna, was reported to be Roxy Washington, equating to 201. In simple English, and also 78 and 84 with Pythagorean ciphers, all of which are numbers pointing back to the Jesuits. So how do these people participate in this shit? Are they selected? They chosen? What the hell is going on? Are they paid to do it? Are they getting killed and don't know what's gonna take place? Oh my God, you people we need to wake up. We need to know that this shit is going on and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. How in the world? This is just freaking mind-boggling to me. But anyway, I got off on a tangent. Let me go back here. To build on our list of 201 connections, the mother of George Floyd's child, Gianna, was reported to be Roxy Washington, equating to 201 in simple English, and also 78 and 84 with the Pythagorean ciphers, all of which are numbers pointing back to the Jesuits. Furthermore, George Floyd's international traveling basketball team paid tribute to his passing on their website. They were the TGBTG Quest team out of Houston, equating to 177 and 201. If you take the time to look up the team's page, you'll notice their logo is a basketball with a cross on it with the letters TGBTG beneath the ball. Letters equating to 56 and 79, same as Society of Jesus. It reminds me that Manly P. Hall wrote, "The United States of America was truly founded by a secret society called the Order of the Quest," equating to both 79 and 74. The latter reminding us that the George Floyd story came during the time of the 74th NBA season. It also should remind us of the Black Mamba, equating to 79, and Robert Rodriguez, equating to 201, the director of the short film that foretold Kobe Bryant's death, the Black Mamba. Okay. And in that breath, while remembering the Lakers are originally from Minneapolis, I encourage you to look up the image used by mainstream media of the unnamed Minneapolis protester shown across all major networks, sporting a purple and gold Lakers jacket while holding a sign, "Justice for George Floyd," in front of Cup Foods, equating to not only 322 but also 106 and 110, the latter two numbers connecting to prophecy, and the last connecting to Minnesota. Also, with regards to 106, it was for this reason that June 10th or 10/6 headlines were run in Houston saying that there could soon be the George Floyd Sports Complex. Oh, God. Named in his honor. What, you got a porn star? A porn star gets a building named after him. Personally, that reminds me of how they opened up the musician Prince's home in Chanhassen, Minnesota as a museum on the date of October 6, 2016, emphasis on 10/6/106. So because we've all been duped into thinking George Floyd was actually murdered, and he probably could have been. I'm not saying he's not, but he participated up until the point where he didn't know he was going to be murdered, probably. And he gets a building named after himself. And he's a porn star. He's done nothing for his humanity. He's done nothing for the black race but get people out in the street arguing and fighting and catching coronavirus. This is some BS. But, you know, oh my God, I just tell you. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, let me get back to here. Okay, if you look back, you'll see the announcement about the October 6th opening. If you look back, you'll see the announcement about the October 6th opening came on August 24th, 2016, the first ever Kobe Bryant Day. And it was noted the museum would be maintained by the same organization that takes care of Graceland, Elvis Presley's estate. And on the subject of the 106 date, October 6th, if you listened to Prince in his last interview with Tavis Smiley, he said, "All we can go by now is prophecy." Keep in mind, Prince had a June 7th birthday, a date that can be written 7/6, similar to Acts 7/6. And he was speaking on how sour the times were when he made the remark, noting that people didn't even recognize what was right before their eyes. The chemical trails in the skies above. If you're not familiar with Prince's remarks on Tavis Smiley's show, and I did watch that before, it is an audio clip away you should seek out. Yep, right on YouTube. You can go and find it. For another important thought regarding the encoding of 322 in the sign paying tribute to George Floyd, a man killed in Minnesota, the land of prophecy, Prince's home state, and in light of the significance of 7/6, Skull and Bones equates to 7/6, the secret society that identifies by the number 322. And with Prince in mind, please recall that he died at age 57, corresponding with the gematria of George and Gemini, and further from the anniversary of his death, April 21st, to Floyd's death, May 25th, is 34 days later. This matters because Prince equates to 34, the same as murder. Beyond that, Prince equates to 65, the same as George Floyd, and the musician's name also sums to 38, the same as Minnesota, and reminding us of 38th Street. The name Prince also equates to 97, the 25th prime number, corresponding with how George Floyd was killed on the 25th of May, and death equates to 97 and 25. That's also the reason why when Maeve Kennedy and her son were found dead on the 97th day of the year, April 6, 2020, it was reported they were found beneath 25 feet of water in Shadyside, Maryland, a town equating to 97. Let us not forget their death was blamed on a canoe accident, a word equating to 97 and 25. Or how the riddle relates to Eminem, aka Slim Shady. My goodness. Back on the subject of 201. Days after the killing of George Floyd on May 30th, 2020, it was reported that a white bar owner killed a black George Floyd protester named James Scurlock, a name equating to, of course, 42, 84, 150, and 201 with the base ciphers. As you know, 42, 84, and 201 connect to the Jesuits, and in the case of 150, it connects to May 30th, being the 150th day of the year in non-leap years, and it also connects to the gematria of Illuminati, reminding us that the Illuminati was established by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt May 1st, 1776, a date with 99 numerology, one of the more important numbers in the George Floyd ritual, and being the number connecting the ritual of Eric Garner and George Floyd directly. As for the Scurlock killing, it happened in Omaha, equating to 38. And give me just 1 second here. Hello? Hey, Ronnie, I'm doing a reading right now. Let me call you back.
Oh, okay.
All right, bye-bye. All right, sorry about that. But anyway, let me get back to here. And where was I? Okay. As for the Scurlock killing, it happened in Omaha, equating to 38, connecting to death. And where George Floyd died, 38th Street. Wow. Even further, Omaha, Nebraska equates to 46, and Nebraska alone sums to 26, numbers connecting to George Floyd, as well as the words riot and chaos, words that define the moment of Saturday, May 30th, 2020, in the wake of the May 26th George Floyd video. As for arguably the most important 201 riddle in the George Floyd killing was the killing of Adama Traore, Adamatraore. So Adama Traore, probably, in Paris, France, also by police, the original home of the Jesuits, on July 19, 2016, the 201st day of the leap year, after the news of George Floyd's death, a death that came exactly a span of 201 weeks from the killing of Adama Traore. A protest was scheduled for Paris, France, for the date of June 1st, 2020, to honor the names of both men. Of course, in France, they chose a date with 47 numerology, and notice that same date, June 1st, can be written as 1/6, not unlike 16, reminding us that Washington, D.C., the land of 47, and the city laid out by the French Freemason L. Enfant, made 16th Street Black Lives Matter Plaza 4 days later on June 5th. Man, boy. At the same time, the 106 gematria of Black Lives Matter reminds us of the 16th Street church bombing, September 15, 1963, a date with 106 numerology, and the fact that 16th Street in D.C. is known as Church Row, equating to 54, like Jesuit order in the Jesuit city. Even further, the official name given to the road on June 5th was Black Lives Matter Plaza, equating to 76. The same as Floyd the landlord, you freaking porn star. And the list of related words equating to 76, including slave and Negro. And let us not forget the Million Man March, October 16, 1995, the day leaving 76 days in the year. And for another riddle, from 1963 to 2020 is 57 years later, corresponding with the gematria of George and Georgetown, the latter being the Jesuit university established in 1789, the year George Washington, the slave owner, turned 57 years old, the same man the city is named after. The other 201 ritual that was a real smack in the face was when Steve Mnuchin, announced in the days before the George Floyd killing that the Federal Reserve would not be debuting the new Harriet Tubman $20 bill as planned, and instead were pushing the date back 8 years to 2028. For starters, this mattered because George Floyd was arrested for using a counterfeit $20 bill, a fitting detail for 2020. And for some gematria, Harriet Tubman sums to 201 and 84 in the same ciphers as the Jesuit order. Beyond that, she was a member of the Underground Railroad, equating to 102 in Pythagorean, the same as George Perry Floyd, and 102 is a number that reminds us the U.S. Civil War began April 12, 1861, the 102nd day of the year. Speaking of which, from the painting of Black Lives Matter on 16th Street in Washington, D.C. on June 5, 2020 to September 15, 2020, the upcoming 57th anniversary of the 16th Street Church bombing is precisely 102 days later. And let us not forget the art of war. The Jesuit translated text summing to 102 and reminding us of the 102-minute long 9/11 attack, an incident having clear parallels with George Floyd, as we covered. In that breath, let us not overlook that Civil War and George Floyd both equate to 119 with simple English. And in case you're not familiar with the Underground Railroad, it was a system for slaves to escape their bondage, connecting to the fact that both the word slavery and nigger equate to 102. It was for this same reason on June 4th, 2020, 102 days after the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, on February 23rd, a story released that he had been called a nigger in the video captured just before his execution. Yeah, how coincidental. Alright. If you go back and check, you'll see the news of the $20 Harriet Tubman bill delay was published in the New York Times and the rest of mainstream media on May 22, 2020, even though Mnuchin had made the announcement days before that. This date can be expressed as 22/5, and this matters because it was reported George Floyd was born October 14, 1973, meaning he was killed on his 225th day of his age. Adding to the riddle, on May 27, national headlines emerged that a Minnesota Catholic diocese was to pay $22.5 million to sexual assault victims. For another familiar number, it was the Diocese of St. Cloud paying the settlement, equating to 119. The Diocese of St. Cloud equates to 119. In light of George Perry Floyd equating to 201, let us not forget that Event 201 was advertised as being 3 hours and 45 minutes long, which is what it ended up running, and that is precisely 225 minutes. Okay? That's crazy. Okay, let us not forget that Event 201 was advertised as being 3 hours and 45 minutes long, which is what it ended up running, and that is precisely 225 minutes. Let us also not forget that the related simulations, Event 201 and Clade X, the latter coming 666 days before the pandemic was declared, oh my God, involved scenarios of civil unrest, protesting, rioting, and violent police crackdowns. That is crazy. Event 201. Yep. That is exactly what Event 201 simulated. Is exactly what's going on now. As for the number 225, it gains its significance through a couple of related things. First, it is the Trinitarian formula, equating to 93 with Pythagorean, the same as Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Trinitarian, the Trinitarian, got it, okay. The Trinitarian formula is something you have likely heard spoken before. Nope, never. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Yes, I've heard of that. It was just called the Trinity. Okay, but anyway, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, a saying equating to 225 with Pythagorean. The other 225 connection, and the one that should make you really take notice, is the phrase the Great Tribulation, equating to 225 with simple English. This is what Jesus said would be the name for the period of time before the end, where the world would befall many consequences. Not coincidences, consequences. The Great Tribulation is also, the Great Tribulation also involves the period of time described in Revelation, where people are being forced to take the mark of the beast if they want to buy or sell. And by the way, mark of the beast equates to 144 and 54 in the same ciphers as Jesuit order. At the same time, I should note, Kobe Bryant died January 26, 2020, a span of 121 days from the death of George Floyd, May 25, 2020. And in addition to LA being 12-1, L is the 12th letter, A is the first letter, so that's 121 pretty much. Revelation equates to 121, and let us not forget that Kobe Bryant centered cartoon. That's right, and let us not forget the Kobe Bryant centered cartoon that foreshadowed his death in a helicopter, equating to 666, was entitled End of Days. I should also remind us, in light of Kobe Bryant scoring 81 points in his 666th game, not only does Kobe Bean Bryant equate to 54 and 81, so does Mark of the Beast in the same ciphers. Think about it. And don't forget, both men had a daughter named Gianna. Parallels. And I haven't even mentioned that Gianna sums to 35 and 46, the same as Catholic, or 116 like African American. And the Jesuit motto, ad majorem Dei gloriam. Whew, this is crazy stuff. Speaking of basketball, the Jesuits and 225. On May 22nd, 2020, or 22/5-225, it was reported that Patrick Ewing, the Georgetown basketball legend, tested positive for coronavirus. And let us not forget the death of Adolfo Nicholas, equating to 225, the former superior general of the Jesuits, who died May 20th, 2020, the day leaving 225 days in the year. As for Patrick Ewing, it wasn't by chance that he was 57 years old at the time of the news, because, as you'll recall, Georgetown equates to 57, the same as Scottish Rite, and it was established in 1789, the same year George Washington turned 57 years old. Plus, George sums to 57 with simple English. To go even further, Patrick Ewing sums to 71, the same as Catholic, the 20th prime number, tying in with 2020 and the fact that the coronavirus pandemic was declared March 11, 2020, the 71st day of the year. Man, the 71st day of the leap year, essentially canceling March Madness, another 71, and suspending the NBA season. It also reminds us the church bought Washington, D.C. in 1871, and adding to the ritual even further, the news came 75 days before Patrick Ewing's 58th birthday on August 5th, and Catholic Church sums to 75. With Georgetown on your mind, think about this as well. If I say Georgia and George in relationship to this story, what pops in your mind? For me, it is the release of the Ahmaud Arbery killing video on May 5th, or 5/5, in Georgia. And then the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, equating to 55. And then the June 12th killing of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta, Georgia, emphasis on the date 6/12, after the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, the home of the 612 area code, and then the burning of the Wendy's on June 13th in Atlanta, where Rayshard Brooks was reportedly killed, which was the day leaving 201 days left in the year. If you look at the details of these three stories more carefully, you'll notice the fingerprints of the Jesuits all over them. For example, it was reported that Ahmaud Arbery, equating to 54 and 72 in the same ciphers as Jesuit order, was killed on February 23, 2020, 72 days before the release of the video on May 5th. A fitting date because video sums to 55 with simple English. Then on May 7th, 74 days after the killing, where killing equates to 74, the father and son responsible for the murder of Arbery were arrested. If you think about the riddle, it involves the father and the son, and the man who is now just a spirit. And I am assuming you recall the connection to Jesus and the number 74. Forgive me, Father, if I don't. No, forgive me, Father, if you don't. That's what he wrote. Let me go back. Okay, then on May 7th, 74 days after the killing, where killing equates to 74, the father and son responsible for the murder of Arbery were arrested. If you think about the riddle, it involves the father and the son, and the man who is now just a spirit. And I am assuming you recall the connection to Jesus and the number 74. Forgive me, Father, if you don't. Or maybe it meant if I don't. I don't know. Now for a bit more on the number 72. In the wake of the killing of 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta, it was the Wendy's that burned, and the name of the restaurant equates to 72 as well as 27. In light of 27 being the reflection of 72, keep in mind both the words race and racism equate to 27, and that is what these stories were centered on. Furthermore, the 27th book of the New Testament is Revelation, and when Wendy's burned on June 13, 2020, a date with 59 numerology corresponding with the gematria of both Atlanta, Georgia, and Revelation, both equating to 59. That was Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's 225th day of his age, having been born November 2nd, 1963. As you have learned, this has to do with the Great Tribulation, part of prophecy, connecting to Acts 7:6. And it was for this reason that on July 6th, or 7/6, the same day Mahomes signed for $400+ million, Brian Kemp deployed the National Guard, equating to 56, like Black Lives Matter, to Atlanta, Georgia to deal with the ongoing protests and the protesters. Keep in mind, Brian Kemp's announcement was 247 days after his birthday, and out of all the major cities in the U.S. nation, the only two equating to 247 are Atlanta, Georgia, the home of the CDC that turned 74 on July 1st, 2020, and Seattle, Washington, where the virus arrived in January, and where big tech companies have taken over the city in recent years and benefited from the pandemic tremendously, especially Amazon, led by Jeff Bezos, the Vatican stooge. Absolutely. And on the subject of 247, July 21st, 2020, marked the 247 years since the Jesuits were suppressed by Pope Clement the 14th on July 21st, 1773. My goodness. As for June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year, it was also the date Stacey Abrams, who lost the rigged election to Kemp, spoke out about the shooting of Rayshard Brooks and against police brutality. And not by chance, her media moment came precisely 187 days after her 46th birthday on December 9, 2019. If you have read my first book, where I reveal a few additional ciphers, you know how Fraternal Order of Police equates to 187. To be quick about it, if you use the master numerology of the letters in reverse Pythagorean, that is where the name equates to 187. To be clear, the only difference is you don't reduce the master letters with the Pythagorean method. So, in the case of Fraternal Order of Police, the letter P would be worth 11 and the letter E would be worth 22 as opposed to 2 and 4 respectively. The same is also true with Pythagorean, where K becomes worth 11 and V becomes worth 22 as opposed to 2 and 4 respectively. As a reminder, these rules are not necessary, but they do provide additional understanding, and with that said, they can also be abused. So please stick to the 4 base ciphers until you feel you have really gained a strong grasp of those, because they are more than enough to prove the points that need to be proven. Another important detail to keep in mind about Governor Kemp's ordering of the National Guard to Atlanta on July 6th is that he is the 83rd governor, and on the same day of his order, 83-year-old musician Charlie Daniels died, of course an age connected to the gematria of murder. Furthermore, it was reported Charlie Daniels died from a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic, okay, Hemorrhagic. A hemorrhagic stroke, and if I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Okay, and that equates to 193 and 94 in the same way as Roman Catholic Church, and 266 in the same way as Jesus Hominum Salvator. For this reason, Daniel's death appears to be connected to the governor's orders. Okay, the reason Daniel's death appears to be connected to the governor's orders is because Daniels had the song "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," which released in history on May 21st, 1979, a standout year, and the anniversary of its release was 46 days before the National Guard was deployed to quell the chaos in Atlanta, Georgia, in the wake of the killing of 46-year-old George Floyd from Houston, Texas, and the ongoing protests fueled by the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and Rayshard Brooks. In regards to the latter death, if you research, you will find that it was the 43rd minute of being interviewed by the Atlanta police per the body camera footage that the deadly confrontation began. And in addition to George Floyd equating to 43, again, so does Masonic, killing, policeman, and Civil War. Even further, Abraham Lincoln, the U.S. Civil War president, was born on the 43rd day of the year, and Obama, who carried his legacy, became the 43rd person to be president of the United States of America. As for the Civil War pattern and Ahmaud Arbery, he was killed in Brunswick, Georgia, equating to 97. The same as Civil War with simple English. And on the subject of Civil War, you should know that with the base ciphers, it equates to 43, 56, 97, and 119. And at this point, you should know how to connect each number to the greater George Floyd ritual. If you need another reminder, George Floyd equates to 43 and 119. Black Lives Matter equates to 56, and 97 is the 25th prime number, where George Floyd died on the 25th of May, and death equates to 25 and 97, similar to Omaha, where James Scurlock died while protesting George Floyd's name, a town equating to 20, 25, 38, and 97, identical to death. Whew. And whatever you do, especially if you're trying to explain this to people. Don't forget the NASCAR example with the Black Lives Matter car, the number 43 car on the date June 10th or 10/6, 106, with the 56 date numerology, where on the same day they banned the Confederate flag, the symbol of the U.S. Civil War for the South, and how this happened one day before the stock market fell to 1,861, like 1861. It fell 1,861 points, proving just how contrived every last detail in the mainstream is. 1861 points. Again, the Civil War began in 1861, and Lincoln was shot at the end of the war in a Jesuit plot by John Surratt in a theater. And for the record, the date of that symbolic fall in Dow Jones points was June 11th or 11/6, like how country, C-O-U-N-T-R-Y, country sums to 116. The same as autonomous, a word meaning to be self-governing, as the Confederate States once fought to be in the Civil War. What? Okay, the same as autonomous, a word meaning to be self-governing, as the Confederate States once fought to be, in the Civil War. They fought to be autonomous. Of course, it was June 11th that national coverage of the autonomous zone in Seattle began, which was 3 days after it was started. In other words, the cabal was once again communicating their intentions through ritual to divide the people. It is for this reason I have a dream that the knowledge within the pages of this book will reach the world, and this nonsense will be brought to an end. Oh my God, I can see it too, and I hope you're right. I mean, this stuff is just fucking, excuse my language, this stuff is just really ridiculous. Oh my goodness. And as I echo the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who asked for the end of the cabal on April 4th, 1967, a year to the day of his assassination, I should point out that national headlines on June 23, 2020 brought attention to the fact that Rayshard Brooks, having gematria overlap with number of the beast in 3 out of 4 ciphers, had his funeral at the same church MLK spoke at. A man remembered by an acronym that equates to 36, with simple English connecting to the fact that 666 is the 36th triangular number. Keep in mind, Charlie Daniels is also identical to the number of the beast in 3 out of 4 ciphers, and he died exactly 36 weeks after his 83rd birthday. My goodness. October 28, 2019, the same birthday as Bill Gates, who has a full name William Henry Gates, also equating to number of the beast. Of course, Daniels became part of the riddle thanks to dying at age 83. On the same day, the 83rd governor of Georgia deployed the National Guard to Atlanta to extinguish the protest. As for another part of the country protesting George Floyd's death, as well as the deaths of Breonna Taylor and David McAtee, that was Louisville, equating to 62 and 46, the latter like chaos and ordo ab chao. Of course, it was the hometown of Muhammad Ali, who died at age 74, where Muhammad equates to 74. Muhammad Ali equates to 201, reminding us that the TV show South Park deleted the episode called 201 from their archive because it was found to be too offensive to Muslims for how it portrayed the Prophet Muhammad, who Muhammad Ali was killed in tribute to on June 3rd, 2016, as we discussed earlier. On the subject of Louisville and George Perry Floyd, from the killing of Breonna Taylor by Louisville police March 13, 2020, to the killing of George Floyd May 25, 2020, was a span of 74 days. not by chance. The name Breonna Taylor also sums to 74 in the same cipher as I Can't Breathe. Whew. In addition to that, her name sums to 191, the same as Society of Jesus. At the same time, her killing was on a date with 56 numerology, corresponding with Black Lives Matter and Society of Jesus, the latter being the organization name also equating to 187. And that is why on July 18th or 187, the headline emerged via CNN that Breonna Taylor had lived for 5 to 6 minutes, as CNN emphasized it, after being shot. My goodness. I do a lot of decoding on certain stories from years ago. Since I know the code, I can go back and look at certain things. And it is amazing that even like I was doing a decode from a murder suicide that had taken place, I want to say like in 2017. But there's a lot. The number 56, 191. These numbers are showing up. 56. I don't remember seeing 201, but I do remember seeing 191, 56, and it's just amazing that they're using this stuff. 56, 56, 56, and we know coronavirus equates to 56. It's just amazing. I just got to keep my list going, and it's just, man. Whew, this stuff is crazy. Now I lost my spot, but let me get back here. Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. In addition to that, her name sums to 191. Okay, that's another number I say all the time. The same as Society of Jesus. At the same time, her killing was on a date with 56 numerology, corresponding with Black Lives Matter and Society of Jesus, the latter being the organization name also equating to 127. Okay, I'm sorry, I reread that already because they said that she lived for 5 to 6 minutes, as CNN emphasized it, for after being shot. Okay. It made me wish I had Lawrence Taylor's number so I could tell him to be safe. Oh my God. Because you never know, Lawrence Taylor. Of course, he is the NFL great who wore the number 56 for the New York Giants. And back on the subject of Breonna Taylor's death, March 13th can be written 313 as well, similar to 313, the 65th prime number, connecting back to the gematria of George Floyd. Furthermore, the date can be written 13-3 like 133, another number I've seen today, equating with the gematria of Minnesota. Wow. And in light of Muhammad Ali being part of the riddle, keep in mind he changed his name in 1964, the year of the Civil Rights Act, 56 years prior to 2020. Furthermore, keep in mind that Muhammad Ali sums to 42 with Pythagorean, and on June 1st, 2020, it was reported that police killed David McAtee during the protest, a Louisville restaurant owner and a man also having a name equating to 42 with Pythagorean, the number that syncs with George Floyd being killed on Memorial Day, equating to 181, the 42nd prime. Also noteworthy, McAtee sums to 47, the same as News, and he made the headlines the date of his reported killing, a date with 47 numerology. Keep in mind the number 47 also connects with government as well as policemen and cop, and the date after his death, June 2nd or 6-2, the police chief of Louisville, equating to 62, was fired over the combined outcomes of the Breonna Taylor and David McAtee incidents. This was largely due to the fact the chief's officers let the body of David McAtee lay in the street for reportedly 12 hours before it was taken away. Even more extreme than what happened with Michael Brown's body, the latter being a man who was loaded into the back of a police SUV as opposed to an ambulance after laying in the street for 4 hours, the number associated with death. Wow. That's crazy because how long ago was it? It's been a long time ago. It's been over 10 years, but I used to live in the south end of Seattle, and in Othello Park, a young man was killed in that park, and they left his body in that park for hours. For how many hours, I don't know, but it was like, it was in the evening when this took place. Some guys playing basketball. Of course, somebody started shooting, and this one person was left laying on the ground by the basketball court. And he was in that park for hours. It was in the evening, it wasn't quite dark yet, but his body was out there well past. Yeah, it was there. It was there for over 4 hours. I know that for sure. So this is just crazy. But he was dead. And as a matter of fact, after they took his body away, I think the next day I was walking through the park. We had to call the police department so they could send someone out because some of the guys' brains were still laying on the. It wasn't a lot, but it was brain matter from him being shot that they had left there. So they did send someone from hazmat, or I'm assuming, but they came and picked it up. But yeah, it's just crazy, crazy, crazy. So I wonder how long are you supposed to leave a body or not leave a body in state for the coroners or whatever. But anywho, moving right along. Okay, so then on June 27th, the day leaving 187 days left in the year, Louisville had another nationally reported incident at a protest where 27-year-old Tyler Girth was shot to death precisely 106 days after Breonna Taylor's death, bringing us back to Black prophecy and Black Lives Matter. So bringing us back to the word black, the word prophecy, and the phrase Black Lives Matter. The shooter was reported to be Stephen Nelson Lopez, equating to 76, and reminding us yet again of Acts 7:6. Furthermore, the shooting was at Jefferson Square Park, equating to 225, another recurring number in the related rituals that connects directly to prophecy, as we have covered. I should note the name of the victim from the June 27th shooting, Tyler Girth, equates to 57, the same as George. In the same way, his fateful headline was connected to the larger George Floyd ritual, so was the reported death of 57-year-old Reverend Vicki Gibbs on July 18, 2020 in Houston, Texas, equating to 181, the 42nd prime, George Floyd's hometown. On that date, it was reported she had fallen victim to coronavirus and had died days earlier, July 10th, 2020, a date with 57 numerology, matching her age of death, 57. Even further, it was reported that she had tested positive for coronavirus just 5 days before her death, July 5th, or 5/7. So how can President Trump, who's 70 freaking 4 years old, be diagnosed with coronavirus, go to the hospital one day, come back home the next, was it 2 days? I mean, he's 74. Shouldn't he be dead, pushing up daisies? But of course, who's the other guy that's dead? The one that ran, Herman Cain, he's dead. This stuff is just what? So black people are weaker to coronavirus than anybody else. And I'm not saying no one else has died from it. It just doesn't make sense. Just does not make sense. And I've heard of several people, at least I know several people, well, at least I know one person that has died from coronavirus that I knew personally. And I know 2 people that have had coronavirus, the flu or whatever, but they got through it. Something is just wrong. Something is just terribly, terribly freaking wrong. Ain't nowhere in the world Donald Trump, because he didn't have it. That's what I'll say. He never had coronavirus. So they can just tell us this is the most celebrity coronavirus thing I've ever seen in my freaking life, while only celebrities survive in it. Or the ones that die, It's just crazy. There's no way in the world Trump should have survived coronavirus. He's 74. He's old. He should be dead, but nope, he's out like a spring chicken. Herman Cain dead, and now a 57-year-old woman, she's dead. And, I know a 54, the person that I know that died, it was like 54. This makes no sense to me at all. Anyway, moving right along, even further, it was reported that she had tested positive for coronavirus just 5 days before her death, July 5th, or 5/7, like her birthday. Recall, Georgetown, equating to 57, the nation's first Jesuit university, was established the year George Washington turned 57 years old on January 23rd, 1789, and keep in mind, Rome sums to 57. At the same time, don't forget the date can be written 23-1, like 231, the 21st triangular number corresponding with the gematria of Jesuit. In this case, the number 21 corresponds with the surname Gibbs, equating to 21 with Pythagorean, the same as Jesuit, also relevant and further connecting the dots. George Perry Floyd equates to 231, the 21st triangular number. In articles written about her, she was referred to as Reverend Vicky Jones, or R.E.V. Vicky Jones. I'm getting Jones, so I'm sorry. R.E.V. Vicky Gibbs. Sorry about that. Reverend Vicky Gibbs, equating to 84, connecting to both Jesuit as well as United States of America, reminding us that this propaganda for our nation, that this is propaganda for our nation and part of a storyline attempting to guide us to our self-destruction. If you research the articles of her passing, you'll see all mainstream media made sure to point out that she had been a supporter of Black Lives Matter and as an outspoken critic in the recent killings of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. So what, kill her too? These bastards. And to make one last point on the matter of her death, July 10th was 46 days after the killing of 46-year-old George Floyd on May 25th. And as we have covered, 46 is very symbolic, especially in this case because Houston, Texas equates to 46 with Pythagorean and the same as sacrifice. And let us not forget Genesis 46. On the subject of them tying these stories of Black Lives Matter and its I Can't Breathe movement together with coronavirus through the story of the death of Reverend Vicky Gibbs from coronavirus, it is important to note that it was reported she was born December 1st, 1962, emphasis on 62 as well as 12/1/121, meaning she died 222 days after her birthday, the number connecting back to Wuhan coronavirus. And with the number 222 in mind, please recall how it connects to 9/11 and the coronavirus pandemic declaration 222 months later on March 11, 2020, as well as how George Floyd fits in addition to the Black History Month tribute, with Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs helping Andy Reid win his 222nd career game in Super Bowl 54 on February 2nd, written as words, February 2nd, equating to 222. February 2nd equates to 222, written as words. A date also written 2/2/2/0, 222/020. My goodness. And coming precisely 222 weeks after the Kansas City Royals won the World Series. And let us not forget, baseball equals 54, or that Jesuit order does as well. It is a number connecting details such as Tyler Perry, equating to 54, reportedly helping pay for the funeral of Rayshard Brooks. Oh my goodness. I am going to end my reading there because I know I keep making mistakes here and there, but this stuff just, it's just giving me a headache. all this stuff, and how people just participate in this stuff just on purpose. But anyway, with that said, I would like to tell you how to get Zachary K. Hubbard's books. His book, Letters and Numbers, you can get that book by visiting Zachary K. Hubbard's YouTube channels, Gematria Effect News or Gematria Effect Sports. And in the description of each of his videos, he leaves a link for you to purchase the book, Letters and Numbers. It is only $5, the best $5 you'll ever spend, because it opens your whole mind up to another level once you learn what Gematria is, and that's what his books will teach you, and especially his first book. The book is a PDF file, so it will come to you via email. Be sure you save the file. Zachary K. Hubbard left the copyright off this book so that you can have it bound into a book for your own personal library. You can upload it to lulu.com and they will bind it into a book for you for less than $30. And there's over 700 pages in this book. So keeping it as an electronic file format, in that format, it is great because when you're looking for information, that makes it easier to find. But be sure to get the book, Letters and Numbers. His second book, 9/11 Number Games, 9/11 to Coronavirus. This book you can order directly from Zachary K. Hubbard by visiting his blog page, gematriaeffect.news, or that's a web page, or I always say gematriaeffectnews.blogspot.com. And the very first thing you'll see when you get to his blog page is the advertising for this book. And as you scroll down, you will see the instructions on how to purchase his book. So, yes, so gematriaeffectnews.com will take you there as well. But get these books, learn this information, see through the matrix, because this is what it is. All of our history is orchestrated through this freaking code. These people are participating on purpose. Maybe not all of them, but there are some that are doing it willingly. The higher echelon people, they are doing this stuff willingly to keep this whole wicked system that is in place, and demented system that's in place, to keeping it going. And we, the people who have been believing these people, are thinking they have our best interests at heart. At least I used to at one time. Now you can see clearly they don't. It's only about total control over all the goyim, over all the sheeple. But do yourself a favor, get these books, learn this information, and share the information. And I hope you'll give this video a like and a share so that someone else can learn this information. And so hopefully that I inspire someone else to take these books and read them as well on YouTube or somewhere, who could do a much better job than I'm doing, or than, but this information needs to be out. Everybody needs to know what gematria is, and people need to wake up, and we need to stop being afraid and stand together and to say we need a different government other than the Jesuits. And this is what is going on. This is what needs to be done. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but hey, if you got some ideas and you live in Seattle, you can email me. I left my email address in the description of my videos too. So you guys take care, have a good night, and I will be back hopefully with the last reading in chapter 18. So thanks, and goodbye.